All right, looks like we are live. Hello, folks, it's Chris. I'm the host of the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm also the host of a show called Comic Tropes. You probably know me from that because that channel's a lot bigger. But this is where I do a weekly live stream to review the comics that I've read this week and then draw something while chatting with all of you. Just an opportunity for all of us to talk comics for the week, see what kind of comic book news there's been, maybe talk about art techniques or what we've been enjoying or things we haven't been enjoying. So always grateful to have people here. Let's see, it looks like there's already a few people in the chat, so thank you for that. Hello to, let me see here, Chris Sears and Kiwi Barb. Hello, Iron Shell, Ian Kopesky, A-Man, Sir Mr. Howell, Jeremy Farbman. Awesome to have all of you here. I sincerely appreciate it. Tell you what, before I waste too much time just chit-chatting, boring, right? No, let's get started. I'm going to talk about the things that I've read this week. I'm making a concerted effort to try to find superhero stuff that maybe I can enjoy because I'm not reading a ton of Marvel and DC right now. I realized all of a sudden I was like looking at my pull list and I was like, okay, I've got more manga than I expected. I've got a really healthy amount of stuff from Image. I've got a lot of crime comics and stuff. Not a lot of superhero stuff. Not a lot. And I thought about that and even talked with the store owner that I go to, and was like, you know, I'm feeling like I'm having trouble figuring out which Marvel and DC thing to jump in on, because I know there's a lot of talent out there that I really like that are working on these things, but it's like I just don't know the jumping on point. And he's like, you know, that actually has been a trouble in the past year, especially like that Marvel and DC haven't created as many good jumping on points, or if they have, they haven't potentially done a great job with either the marketing or the branding to make it clear that this is where you can jump on and it's an easy entry point, because there should always be sort of an easy entry point. Hey, my sister's here. Hey, Jean. Anyway, just something that in the back of my mind. For instance, I've been hearing lots of good things about certain people that are working on various Batman type titles and related Batman titles. But I looked at that section and oh my god, not only is there, you know, Batman and Detective and I don't know, probably like Robin and Catwoman and Joker and all this stuff, but there were all these like limited series too, and I was like overwhelmed looking at that. And I've been reading comics for a long time. Anyway, all that is to say, first book I picked up that I haven't really been reading lately. I'd read some of the early days of Donny Cates' Venom run, and that was good. I liked his run, actually. I thought he had a good take on the character of Eddie Brock. But now Al Ewing and Ram V have taken over the writing, sort of rebooting things a little bit. It's just a new creative team. Art by Bryan Hitch. It's a very sort of cosmic look at Venom. And that just ties into like where the book was left off. But then there's stuff still based on Earth with Eddie's son, Dylan, and him possibly bonding with the symbiote. All I can say is I'm a big fan of Bryan Hitch's artwork. So while the story didn't like totally wow me yet, the artwork did. And I did love Al Ewing's run on Immortal Hulk, so I'm willing to give this a couple more issues to see where it's going, and hopefully I can get into it. It's interesting, when you look at Bryan Hitch's artwork in this, as detailed as always, but not necessarily told in, say, that cinematic long panel format that he's used on books like Authority and stuff like that. This is definitely more traditional comic book storytelling and pacing, and it's cool. So get a nice big issue here, sets up some interesting things for the future. I hope they find a way to potentially ground what's going on, like, you know, in relatable, like, family relationships and stuff that's happening on Earth beyond all the stuff that's happening cosmically. I hope that that's more just about, like, you know, the setting up a new villain or something. But yeah, the art is good. So I do give this a recommend. Yeah, I wouldn't say like, drop everything and pick it up type recommend, but like if you're looking for something fun, it's really cool artwork. So I like that. This is one of the favorite things that I read this week. Friday. Now this is written by Ed Brubaker with art by Marcos Martin. Or it might be pronounced Martin, actually, now that I think of it. It's not that new anymore, but I really loved what Marcos Martin did with Brian K. Vaughan on a Doctor Strange book called The Oath. If you ever want a good Doctor Strange story that's not long and isn't connected with any other continuity, just a short, cool story, The Oath. It's like a 4-issue series. Anyway, it is a crime story, and Ed Brubaker can write that stuff in his sleep and create a compelling mystery. What's cool about this for me is, first of all, it's set in a fictional New England town that very much reminded me of the small coastal New England town I grew up in. So, like, it felt very authentic. Second, the main character is this girl called Friday Foster, and she works with this guy, Lancelot Jones. And essentially what they are if you ever read as a kid anything like Nancy Drew, The Hardy Boys, Encyclopedia Brown, those sort of, is not even young adult yet, like sort of like just barely older than kids. Yeah, I'm just starting. Welcome. They were like teen detectives that would solve all sorts of interesting mysteries and stuff in their neighborhood. Let me see. There's like a cool splash here that like shows some of the things. Yeah, they act like these are all like past adventures, and they design them like they were books, but these are all adventures that they've gone on in the past. Now here's where the story starts, though. It's now Friday. She's the main character, even though she's sort of the sidekick in this duo. She's gone off to college, and even though she was close with Lancelot, they just really never. They tried right before she left to see if they could be boyfriend girlfriend, and it just didn't feel right. And so now she feels really awkward around him. But she comes home to visit her family and to see him on her first break from college. And there's a mystery going on that seems very supernatural, seems to involve witches. So if you ever wanted to see, like, take those characters, those templates of, say, like Encyclopedia Jones and stuff, but then put them into a slightly more adult setting and to see how they would react and grow, it's great. It's so much cooler than I'm even explaining. By the way, this is a webcomic, so this is just a compilation of, enough to make a graphic novel, but it is a digital comic. And so you can actually subscribe online and read even further ahead than where this book is. I haven't done that yet. I'm reading it in print form, but I really like this. Oh, did I say Friday Foster? I did. Mr. Howell just pointed out that I said Friday Foster. That is not the character's name. The character's name is Friday Fitzhugh. Friday Fitzhugh. I conflated that. There was an old comic strip called Friday Foster. It was a black detective. It was an early comic strip. One of the first, I think, to use a main character that was, a minority. It was among them. And it was adapted into like a live action movie, like way back in something like the 60s. It may have, now that I'm thinking of it, if you discount those early movie serials that like Batman and Captain America had, it may be the first live action adaptation of like a comic strip or a comic book. It might be Friday Foster. I'd have to look it up, but it might be. The main character's name is Friday Fitzhugh. Excuse me. Thanks for watching my Hawkeye episode. Glad you liked it. I'll be drawing Hawkeye in a little bit, so that's what I'm going to draw today with my little pencil and stuff after I recap what I've read this week. Anyway, that gets a strong recommend. Really, really good. Also, the colors by Munsa Vicente are fantastic. As you can see, there's a lot of pages where it's more just like a solid color palette. Kind of what I was talking about in my latest episode about Hawkeye, about what Matt Hollingsworth does about setting a mood with color. This is that same sort of style. But then sometimes it's very realistic, sort of grounded colors. And not quite completely flat. There's a little bit of rendering and texture to some of this stuff. It probably doesn't come through on camera too well. I can't deny... Thank you. Beta Ray Bill Fan says, you should enable Super Chats. Would love to donate. I would appreciate that. However, this channel doesn't have enough views or whatever it takes to monetize quite yet. So that's part of why I'm trying to grow this channel, so that I could enable Super Chats. That would be lovely as an income stream. But while I could have Super Chats on the Comic Tropes channel, if I did weekly live streams there, it's never going to be quite as many people that tune into that as my regular full edited videos. And so it's sort of YouTube's algorithm then like gets confused and says like, well, looks like not many people watch some of these videos, so we're not going to recommend it to as many people. Since I've stopped doing live streams on the Comic Tropes channel, everything is growing there in terms of subscriber count, comments, likes. It's just part of how YouTube works. Like a channel has to sort of be consistent with the type of content it delivers. Kind of weird. It's going to be a surprise, Ian, what costume I'm going to draw. You'll see in a little bit. This is the next book I read, and by the way, here's like a small side story. Look what I did to it. Can you see that? I think that like automatically would like put this at like something like a 3.0 at best for if this was to ever get graded. I accidentally put it into like the bag and didn't realize, but I folded this page all the way back. In a way, I don't super care because I don't really buy my comics as an investment. I buy them to read, and this does not take away from the reading experience. But I was bummed out when I realized what a big crease I gave that. You don't, us as comic book readers, you don't tend to see like something that bad too often. Anyway, this is issue 2 of Righteous Thirst for Vengeance by Rick Remender and his artist Andre Lima Araujo. A different type of crime story. We still don't really know the main character's name or his job or anything like that. Just that he was going out to see some folks. When he got there, they were murdered. Now he's trying to figure out like what to do about it. Here's the thing. He pulls up a plank in his room and uses a hidden USB drive to get on the dark web to look into like hit job contracts. So he's like trying to track down whoever killed these people. I think he maybe used to be a killer, but isn't now. Something along those lines. I don't know yet, but he is trying to investigate who killed these people. You get to know more about his life. His mom is in a nursing home. I don't know. Like he gives a ton of money to the people at the nursing home in cash to take care of them. So he's definitely involved in crime in some way. But when he goes to investigate like, a contract so that he can start tracking things down, he meets like another killer. And dude is sweating like at this idea of meeting these people. So it's definitely a good mystery. I don't know where it's going. I don't know. But I like it, and I like the art. Very gritty style. Reminds me maybe a little of somebody like Jeff Darrow, but even grittier. It's cool, man. It's real cool. I definitely recommend this. Grading is meaningless for comics. I kind of agree, Daniel. It makes a difference for me sometimes in terms of like buying a back issue, like what I'm willing to pay for it. Like it is in, if you tell me something's a 7.0, fine. That doesn't bother me at all because I'm not really looking at it as an investment. If you tell me it's a 3.0 or something, I'm kind of like, well, why? Is there a tear or is there a coffee stain? Is there anything that would impede the reading of it? And then like, is the price fair for that? But I don't have any interest in like slabbing my books or anything like that. So yeah. Let's see. So moving on. I definitely do give this a recommendation, but I don't know where it's going, and that's part of why I like it. Not too much more that I read this week. Just 3 more issues. Stillwater. I didn't love this one, if I'm being honest. I wanted to like it, because lately I've been reading some stuff by Chip Zdarsky that I really have liked. And I really liked Stillwater's premise when it started, which is that there's a town, when you're within its borders, you can't die or age. And the town keeps it a secret. You know, they have secret supply drops, and they look like a normal town. But if somebody comes in that's out of town, you know, the whole town sort of quietly ushers them out, like, or, you know, without making it obvious. But they don't let any newcomers stay. There's a guy that goes to the town in the first issue with a friend. They kill his friend, but they don't kill him because he was actually born there. So it's all a mystery. But here we are, issue 11, almost a year in, and I found this, like, just so many names and characters and, like, sort of secrets, but I don't know, like, it just didn't engage me with the main character too much. Instead, I like the supporting character that's, like, become his friend. This, I can't even remember this character's name. She's like, a local that, like, kind of wants to change things up because the people there are pretty vicious and brutal and stuff. But it's just so many names and stuff, and I don't know. I just wasn't too into it. Maybe this was just not the issue to, you know, it's just not the best issue. All right, so that was everything new, and then I picked up 2 back issues. Sometimes I pick up a little more. This time these cost me a little bit, and I do sort of have a weekly budget. This is a pretty old book that I got. This is Captain Marvel Adventures number 115 from 1946. Not in fantastic condition, but also not in bad condition. And what can I say? I like this stuff. I didn't know what was special about this issue. It was more just that it came across my plate at a reasonable price. And I think there's some interesting things to share about it. First of all, nice bright colors on here. It is sort of worn, but it isn't like in bad condition. It like real bad. It's very readable. C.C. Beck did the cover, and he's, I would say, most people's favorite artist for Captain Marvel. But Fawcett Publications, their quality control on this is just nowhere near what you would see from DC Comics or Marvel Comics from that era. First of all, look, the staple is not even close to the spine. It's definitely indented into the back, which makes it a little tricky to keep this, like, in good condition. And then when you go inside, the colors, let me see, like, it starts, yeah, okay. We're used to, like, sometimes colors being offset, right? Where, like, they go outside the line a little bit. But this is egregious, in my opinion. Like, because this is off, like, you know, a centimeter or two. And not just for, like, a page or anything. Like, for half of the issue, it's all, like, really, really off. Like, I wish I could show you it better, but if you pause for a moment, you could sort of see, like, there's blue going into, like, Talkie Tawny's shirt. And Captain Marvel, like, has this yellow halo along the top. That isn't a highlight. That's just the colors are completely off. Like, one of the plates is just off. Or more than one plate. I'd have to look at it closely to be sure, but it's like every page after that, it's really off. The last story, though, is really fun. It's about, like, a villain on the TV. and they're so scared because he makes Captain Marvel look bad on TV. Whoa, what a menace. And, like, when Captain Marvel, like, goes to investigate, like, he finds a bunch of dead rats inside the machinery. So I don't even know that they really understood how TVs worked. But it was kind of funny. So that was cool. And this is a Golden Age comic, so this is really slightly different. But look, this is just comparing it to, like, a modern comic size. See that? It's, like, about an inch longer. It's about the same height. It's, like, a little tiny bit taller, but it is a little longer. So this bag that I have is actually a Golden Age bag, which also sort of was little, but like these days, to offer that is nice, because if go ahead and look at the prices of comic book bags on eBay or something. They're going for cuckoo amounts, because it's yet another supply chain issue that the world is facing. They're having trouble. Excuse me, I hiccuped. They're having trouble producing enough plastic comic book bags. Weird, right? Last thing I got, and this is more cool for me specifically, because I am a fan, in general anyway, of Frank Miller. I really like Frank Miller, and not everything. I agree. Holy Terror and Dark Knight 2, pretty bad, but a lot of the stuff he's made I like. And this issue, everybody knows that Frank Miller had a classic run writing and drawing Daredevil, especially the writing. But this is the first issue he ever worked on, and it was as just an artist. The script was by Roger McKenzie. It's kind of a goofy story, to be honest. Like, it's villains that are much goofier than you'd see in a Daredevil comic ever since Frank Miller took over and made it like a little more of a crime comic. This is when Daredevil was closer to like a Spider-Man type guy. Yeah, the villains, and this is a little faded, but the villains are like this. They're called something like the Terrible Trio or something. It's like a gorilla, a falcon guy, and just this sort of like vaguely tigerish guy with electronics. Or cat guy. Is that what it was? Yeah, he was like a cat guy. Kind of weird. Don't remember them too well. But they all report to Deathstalker. And Deathstalker is the guy on the cover here. He can become intangible. That's basically his big power. So the story's goofy, but the art is cool. I mean, this is Frank Miller, just doing everything he could to sort of imitate his hero, Neil Adams. Not that he looks that much like Neil Adams, but storytelling wise, and the dynamic layouts and the detail focus on form and gesture and getting that stuff right. Yeah, I think he took a lot of that from early Neil Adams, and it's inked by Klaus Janson. So you can't get much better than that, like Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. Looks great. It looks really, really good. Yeah, so to me, like this copy, I don't know, probably would be reviewed at something like a 7.0. It doesn't have any like dynamic flaws, but it's just kind of worn a little bit. But who cares? To me, that's cool, because I'm a Frank Miller fan, and this is the first Daredevil comic that he ever worked on, and I own that, and I don't know, to me that was really cool. There's also some interesting stuff that Frank did here. You can see that he used some Zipatone on like this gravestone, but only on this little piece. I don't know, and then like he used some for the background here, like the sky. Very cool, very, very cool. All right, that's everything I read this week. I would love to hear in the chat what kind of stuff you guys have been reading and what you liked. And yeah, I said I was going to draw Hawkeye. I never said which Hawkeye. I'm going to draw Kate Bishop. So this is still pretty darn loose. I'm just trying to map out exactly what I want to do here with Kate. Never drawn her before. I don't think I've drawn any ladies on the live streams yet, so just thinking that through. But I'll be drawing, and I would love at this point to start taking any questions that you guys have, and as I think of it, I'll come up with topics and news and stuff like that. The Frank Miller Daredevil companion book? What's the companion book? I don't think that either of those bad guys were the New Men or the Animen guys. They were something else. Phil says that Uzumaki was a great recommendation. Yeah, it's a scary comic. but the film adaptation was horrible. I never saw it. Good to know. Sorry about that. Would be nice if it was better, but... Okay. Let's see. Thing I think I'll give Kate here is some archers will wear a brace on their bow holding hand because where can I put my arm? Like about here. You're drawing back like this, right? And then you like let the string go. You've got your arm straight, like you could bang it against your arm, and how fast that thing goes, you could just like I even saw this once at summer camp. It just shaved a slice of skin right off the guy's arm. Now, here's the thing. Kate Bishop and Clint are supposed to be fantastic archers. They probably shouldn't like ever make that kind of a mistake. But then again, you know, they're superheroes getting into weird fights, so who knows, like, you know, what could come up. Anyway, yeah. I hope that the adaptation is enjoyable of Hawkeye coming out on whatchamacallit, Disney Plus real soon. I hope it's good. I don't know what to make of it. I've been reading the Parasite manga and Flash Gordon newspaper collections recently. Oh, cool. Some of those Flash Gordon pieces, like with art by, what was it, Alex Raymond? That art was incredible. Oh, what am I eating? Nothing special. Some peanuts. There's not many snacks I can really have that fit. My sister says I'm zoomed in too far, so I'll zoom out. Bear with me. I trust her opinion. Maybe that's a little better. Does that work? Hopefully that works. Yeah, sorry that I'm eating while I'm doing this. I know that's probably annoying, but yeah. I bruised the heck out of my forearm with a bow at scout camp, says Chris. Oh, I went to scout camp one summer. Yeah. Had no idea about your second channel. Love the live streams. Thanks, X. Appreciate you jumping in. Supposedly there's another trailer for the next Spider-Man movie coming out maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then definitely Wednesday. So that could be fun, but I also do worry that at the last minute they'll sort of spoil some of the surprises, you know? So I'm like, I don't know if I really want to risk watching any more trailers where the movie's only like about a month out or something. I think I'll go see the Ghostbusters movie this week because that actually has been getting good reviews. I was a little surprised, but if it's getting good reviews, then count me in. I love the idea of the Ghostbusters, and that first movie is fantastic. Not a huge fan of the second one, really. But I love Ghostbusters. It's very funny. Are you still collecting G.I. Joe classified figures? I am, Daniel. Yeah. One of the few things that I collect. I decided to follow that toy line, and so far so good. So that's fun. What can I say? I grew up really liking G.I. Joe and Transformers. As an adult, I guess that's what I am. Not as big a fan of Transformers anymore. Like I still like have like nostalgia for them. I just don't really feel like buying them or anything. They seem to be way better made than when I was a kid, though. I will say that. Posable and stuff. The ones I got like were always very much like, you know, it was a vehicle and it was a robot, but as the robot, like, do not expect to be able to move its arms or legs or anything like that. There was no posing. I mean, it was just a statue. My sister just sent me a photo of her dog dressed up like a Ghostbuster for Halloween. If you can see that, like there's a little Italian Greyhound in a Ghostbuster suit with a Ghostbuster backpack. Thanks, Gene. Hope that's okay. I just shared that. Would you ever consider doing a tropes video on the founding of Image Comics? I would consider it, but just so you know, like Image released, no, was it Image? I don't know if it was Image or the Sci-Fi Channel now, but it was somebody did release a documentary, we'll call it, on YouTube about the founding of Image Comics, and it had access to all the Image founders. So, you know, it's sort of like, what could I add that wasn't covered by, you know, I don't know what I'd be able to add. I was about to use my brush pen, but I'm actually going to map out a couple of the straight lines first here. Yeah. Bear with me, and I just need to get this out. I never had any He-Man figures as a kid, not even one. Just wasn't really my thing. Closest I can say I got to He-Man was I saw the live-action movie with Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella and Courtney Cox. That's all just wasn't really my thing. Somebody else in the chat, just in case you didn't know, like mentioned He-Man, and I didn't just bring it up out of nowhere just to tell you my background with He-Man. It was sci-fi? Okay. I couldn't quite remember. So that's on YouTube. If you just look up, like, you know, Image history or founding of Image, something along those lines, you're going to find a pretty impressive, like, documentary. I want to say it's at least an hour long. It might be broken into several parts. I'll get you, He-Man. Oh, for a minute I thought you were trying to say, Gene, that you will get me a He-Man, and I'd be like, no, don't bother. But now I realize that you probably meant for it to be written in Skeletor's voice, and I think I can probably do a Skeletor impression. Let's see. I'll get you, He-Man. Isn't that kind of how he sounded? I don't want to be nice. He-Man the live action, the only thing I can remember is they stole a bucket of KFC. They did do something like that. Would I consider doing a video on Alex Ross? Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot. Oh, Daniels clears it up. The documentary that I'm talking about, it says, oh no, he says, I read the Image Comics The Road Independence book, probably the Road to Independence book, that documents how Image Comics got created and what kind of titles it led to. Yeah, you know, it's funny. Sometimes I don't think about this as an option for, like, an episode, because I'm like, I remember living it, you know? I mean, I remember reading in, like, Wizard magazine as well as local, like, sort of comic book store newsletters, you know, that this was what was happening, and you'd see the ads and stuff, and you were just like, oh, okay, you know, Image Comics is happening. That's why Liefeld isn't doing X-Force right now. That's why Todd McFarlane stopped doing Spider-Man. So, but it has been like, what, 30 years or something? So I guess not everybody would remember that anymore. I shouldn't take for granted that, like, just because I sort of remember going through all that, like, it would be something everybody would know. How about a Comic Tropes episode on what is likely the greatest year in comic book history, 1986? I've argued that too. That I think, like, 86 is the strongest year, but I get more excited about, like, whatever's coming up and is new. You know, I think that there's lots of cool new comics, but 86 just had so many good books. Yeah, I don't know. It was a really exciting time for comics. came across the weirdest music video the other day. I woke up with a song in my head that I was like, I don't know where I heard it, but it was just in my head. It was from like 1985 once I looked it up. It's the song Bad Boy by Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine. Don't expect anybody out there to actually remember that. But I was like, I'm just like waking up and I'm going like, bad, 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 bad boy. And so I looked it up, right? And I watched the music video so that I could just, sometimes you want to hear a song and get it out of your head by actually just focusing on it, and then you can sort of let it go. That was my rationale anyway. And so I play it, and the music video was utterly bizarre. I never would have guessed this. Gloria Estefan plays like this lady. She's on a date at night in the city with like this bland white guy who's like, my place? And she's like, no thanks. I think I'd rather go for a walk. And so she goes for a walk down a dangerous alley, and she encounters the bad boys of the video. And it's the cast of Cats, the musical. I was like, what? Like, I just never knew that there was a music video using the cast of Cats. And they're all just like, meow. And she's like, ooh, bad, 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 bad boy. Meow. It was weird. Steve says, I met Jim Shooter again. He is tall, but I agree that he was a good time for Marvel. He really paid attention to continuity, as it was really important to him and his writers. Yeah. That makes sense. Anyway, I just did not expect to be taken down a rabbit hole that would lead me to Cats. Wasn't expecting that. Boys will be boys, bad boys, bad boys. Yep. Black Phoenix knows. Drawing bangs is kind of hard. I hope I do justice. But the one thing Kate does have going for her that should help me out, black hair is kind of easier to play with in terms of like doing fun things with lighting effects and stuff. Gloria Estefan meets Cats. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure plenty of people out there are like, I don't know who Gloria Estefan is, and that's fine. She did have a pretty good career. She had had something like 5 or 6 hit records in the Latino market. Like, they made like Spanish speaking albums before she crossed over and became a huge artist for English speaking audiences. I remember that. I remember that was kind of a big deal at the time. Bad, 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 bad boys. Let's see. What else are you all reading that's way high on your list that you would like recommend? Like, what comics creators are you following these days that you're like, this is the stuff, Chris? You gotta catch this. It's can't miss. Want weird music video? Look at Sting. I'm so happy I can't stop crying. It features some really bad 90s CGI of aliens dancing with flying pickup trucks. Michael Golden's art? Yeah, Michael Golden's awesome, Phil. If you like guys like, I don't know, definitely Todd McFarlane. Maybe Art Adams was influenced by him. Like, he's definitely, like, a really influential artist that I think, like, lots of comic readers know and love, but only if you're, like, sort of a big fan of following comic book history. Michael Golden is fantastic. And one book that I really like that he worked on, actually, is The Nam, about Vietnam. It's really good. Arkham City is good. Mr. Howell loves Gloria Estefan. Awesome. Of course, I've read Marvels by Kurt Busiek. Yeah. It's so good. Read all 4 issues, Iron Chill. It's really good. Kingdom by Yasuhisa Hara, a manga epic about the unification of China. Interesting. Is it like a completely non-fiction, or is it got like extra stuff? I'm curious about that. Tyler says Berserk. Yep. It's far exceeding my expectations of a celebrity-written comic. I was thinking about that today, Tyler. I was going through, like, has there ever been, an actor that made a comic that wasn't clearly designed for them to star in? And I feel like the answer is no. I remember that, like, Tom Jane and Rosario Dawson have made comics, but they each feature a character that, like, pretty clearly could be for them. I think Berserk is a good comic, but it's also very obvious that the main character could be played by Keanu Reeves himself. What else? I'm trying to think of, like, other... John Leguizamo just came out with a comic. That, like, came out just this past week. Phenom X. I was like, yeah, I respect John Leguizamo, but no thanks. It's kind of funny, like, I just don't think any of them get into comics because they're just like, I've got a story to tell. It's clearly always that they want to create their own property that they could star in. Like, that's so obviously, like, so transparently always the case. With one exception that I can think of. And I reviewed this. I would say that the stuff that Anthony Bourdain wrote some comics, and I think that was because he just legit grew up loving comics. They were related to the food industry, but I didn't think that they were vehicles designed for him to star in so much as he was writing about stuff that he knew. So, yeah, Anthony Bourdain's comics are quite good, and they are about food, but I don't think that they were, like, just designed for him to star in it. I read the first issue of Emilia Clarke's Mother of Madness, and that isn't too bad. It isn't too bad, but it also is like, well, I think she did this for her to star in. Danny DeVito is doing a Penguin book. See, that's cool, because that's the opposite way. Oh, geez, I'm forgetting the actress's name. Who was the actress who played Marty McFly's mom in the Back to the Future movies? Who am I thinking of? Because Leah Thompson is who I'm thinking of. She was in the Howard the Duck movie, and I believe Chip Zdarsky's run had her appear as herself in the run, and I think she helped, like, co-plot an issue. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Phantom? The Phantom's kind of cool. I mean, definitely, like, among the first masked heroes, and it is impressive that it's still running. It's also just interesting that the Phantom is so popular with so many, like, areas of the world. Like, Australia loves the Phantom. I think Norway or Finland, like, the Phantom is still running. India, the Phantom is running. And it's like, he's arguably much more popular in some of these other countries than here in America. Howard the Duck is truly the greatest movie in the MCU. Well, I don't think it is in the MCU. It's a Marvel movie, but I don't think it takes place in the MCU. Pretty sure they haven't done anything to justify that. Boy, was that a stinker. How was a stinker. Yeah, that was a disappointment. For the longest time, I don't think anybody knew that Howard the Duck was even a comic. They just knew that it was like a bad movie. Actually, I bet the average person still doesn't know that Howard the Duck is, or at least was a comic first. Right? Probably the average person doesn't know that. Kamen Rider manga. That could be fun. What comics was Bourdain involved with? Well, I made a whole video about it, X, so I'd recommend looking that up on Comic Tropes. The Phantom is super popular over here in Sweden. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? That the Phantom is so popular in some of these other countries. I wonder what it is about him that connects with readers in other countries. Because, I mean, I don't know. It isn't like he's an inherently American character, even though it was by American creators, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure Lee Falk was American. But I don't know why it resonates with so many readers abroad. Seth Green is great as the MCU Howard the Duck. He certainly seems to take care of the role just fine. He hasn't really done a whole lot with it, has he? But, yeah. Didn't Paul Scheer make a comic? Yes! Paul Scheer, if I'm remembering right, adapted, what was it? It was from the 80s, and I want to say the artist was Jose Delbo, and it was the concept was that, like, animals were given cyborg bodies and increased intelligence so that they... I think it was called Brute Force. It was a pretty bad comic. Like a 4-issue series in either the late 80s or early 90s. And I believe Paul Scheer did like sort of a funny modern day take on that. So that's cool. Good for you, Paul. I met Paul at Comic-Con once. He was really, really nice. Oh, and he was on my old podcast, I just remembered. And now that I think of it, when my podcast was in the running for some sort of a contest that I forget what it was called on Earwolf Media, Paul was a judge that voted for it to move forward. So thank you for that, Paul. I'm sure he's watching this live stream, so I think it's only fair that I call him out and thank him. Yeah, that some guys like Patton Oswalt or Paul Scheer are definitely like real comic book fans. Seth Meyers, I want to say CM Punk. There's just certain celebrities out there that are legit comic book readers. What do you think about the Keanu Reeves and Matt Kent book Berserker, which already has a Netflix adaptation in the works? Didn't we just talk about that? I think it's cool. It's cool. Oh, Paul Scheer did a Deadpool biannual with Brute Force. Okay, thanks for clearing that up, folks. He did work with Brute Force then. He did. Yeah, I thought so. I'm glad I remembered that. Guillermo del Toro's Man-Thing, Wes Anderson's Squirrel Girl, Tarantino's Wolverine. Would be interesting to have an auteur direct an MCU movie. The closest I think we got to an auteur really giving his full vision to an MCU vision was when Edgar Wright was going to do Ant-Man. And I think it's just sort of a case of, for it to fit with everything else, Marvel still has to exert a little bit of control and say, like, look, you need to have these references to the next thing or this or that. You know, just a little bit of connecting tissue and that they're going to insist on no matter what. And that didn't work for Edgar Wright. But you know what? I think it worked out for the best because then he was free to do Baby Driver and Last Night in Soho, which are great movies. And I think that the guy that they hired to do the 2 Ant-Man movies did a fine job. Did fine. Yeah, Brian Posehn worked on Deadpool along with artist and friend to me, Tony Moore. That was cool. Brian Posehn, Jerry Duggan, great Deadpool run. In my opinion. Your mileage may vary. If I get quiet, it's just because I'm focusing on small details of what I'm drawing. Guillermo del Toro's Justice League Dark would have been a perfect fit. Yeah, I mean, Guillermo is always attached to like 7 projects at a time, and the one thing you can count on is that only like 1 out of every 7 type thing is really going to actually move forward. He attaches himself to a lot, but it doesn't all move forward, and you just have to sort of learn to live with that. But you know what? I do like his work. I'm trying to think. I don't think that I've ever seen a Guillermo del Toro movie that I thought was bad, and some of them are excellent. Pan's Labyrinth and Pacific Rim are 2 of my favorites. I liked his Hellboy stuff. Devil's Backbone is good. Kronos is good. What else? Blade 2. Blade 2 was pretty good. I thought that was fun for its time. What was that one that he did fairly recently about like the creature in the water? That was really good. That was really, really good. Crimson Peak was pretty good. He's made a lot of good movies. Even like his super early stuff, like what was that one? Mimic. It's watchable. So I don't think he's ever made like a bad movie. The Shape of Water. Thanks, Squeaker. Tell me why so is Howard the Duck. Yeah, just about, actually. Just about. Loved your new video on Hawkeye. Thanks, Antonio. Appreciate that. Trying to think, was there any big comic book news this week for me to comment on? I'm thinking. I feel like I didn't really hear much in terms of, like, say, new creative team on such and such, or, controversy with so-and-so. I don't know. I'm trying to think, but nothing's coming to me in terms of comic book news of the week. Who'd you cast as a perfect Plastic Man? Charlie Day could be good. I'd definitely go with a comedian, so yeah, Charlie Day, sure, absolutely. I don't know what he looks like without his beard. Oh, Frighteners! Yeah, I loved Frighteners. That was no, wait, that wasn't Guillermo del Toro. That was Peter Jackson. And you just realized at the same time. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. Like, that was a great movie, but wait, that wasn't Guillermo. Oh yeah, there was news from Disney Plus Day. Disney Plus showed basically a bunch of title cards for upcoming shows and a few fleeting shots of stuff for Moon Knight and even more fleeting for She-Hulk. But I liked what I saw. Could be fun. I like the casting for both of those. Oscar Isaac, first of all, awesome. Uh, Surprised, honestly, that he was willing to do a streaming show. He flat out said he would not do a streaming Star Wars show. Like, he would not come back to do a streaming Star Wars show. So it's interesting that he did for the MCU, but these days I guess the MCU is a lot more profitable than Star Wars, which is just weird to think about. And Tatiana Maslany is great. She's super funny if you've ever listened to her on any comedy podcasts, and obviously like very versatile as an actor if you've ever watched Orphan Black. So casting her as both, Jennifer Walters She-Hulk, that's fantastic. She could probably do a really good job. What did they show for She-Hulk? Mostly just Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters, like, in a business suit going to court, like outside, and then another quick shot of her in some sort of like, a clear cell with like headgear on, and the Hulk, as Professor Hulk, I guess we'll call him, like about to do some tests on her, and then like about 2 fleeting shots that you don't see like the face, but you see like, the camera move up from behind, and so you see like, muscular body with like, green legs and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's cool. Oh yeah, X-Men 97 was announced, so they're going to continue the cartoon from the 90s. I don't quite know how that will work, but I know that has a lot of fans. A lot of people became comic book fans from that show, even though it was really just sort of adapting the comic stories of the day. I was getting just a little too old to watch something like that, so while I've seen some of it, I'm not an expert on the X-Men cartoon, so I can't like claim that I've got some big nostalgia boner that like, yeah, it's coming back, but I'm fine with it. I think X-Men, if this is a decent way of like bringing it back into the public consciousness before they just launch their next movie iteration or something, like, bring it back a little slower. So they announced and they had title cards for stuff like Secret Invasion and Marvel Zombies and all sorts of stuff. They've got tons of Disney Plus shows coming for Marvel. It's hard to draw pretty ladies, so I'm probably botching that. What can I say? I'm just not that great. Some things I just can't do very well yet. But that's why I do stuff like this. It's all practice, and it's just it's an opportunity for me to practice while chatting with everybody about comic stuff. I think it looked like She-Hulk. If she's probably going to be CGI because of the size of her, but it's not the same, sort of scale and scope as what Hulk is. She's more like 7 feet tall, and the Hulk is more like 9. So it's a little bit less of an exaggeration. But Tatiana Maslany, they're like, sort of emphasizing like her actual height to sort of make her, which is relatively short, as a lot of actors just tend to be. So it's a nice contrast. She definitely looks very different sizes, it seems. Let's see, the voice actor of Cyclops passed away in 2020, the one that did the 97 cartoon. Okay, I'll step in. I don't know exactly what he sounded like, but Wolverine, that's not how you behave. Perfect. I'm Cyclops. Right? Jean, I love you. While I'd mean that to my sister, I was being Cyclops saying it to Jean Grey. But just so you know, sister, whose name is also Jean, I do love you, as a brother should. And is legally obligated to. Some of you out there may not know that, but as a brother, you're legally obligated to love your sister and watch out for her. If not, that makes you a bad brother. Thanks, man. Yeah, you got it. Nailed it. Do Rogue next. Well, hi, I'm Rogue. I'm from the South, y'all. I think I got that one, too. Wow. Could I end up voicing the whole cast? It's possible, folks. Just so you know, it's possible. I didn't expect it either. Hello, Cheeky. Anything is better than the G1 Transformers voice acting in animations. Oh, I love the G1 Transformers voices. I do agree that sometimes the animation was subpar. Sometimes it was quite good. It depended on which studio they hired that week. Yeah, I grew up a big Transformers fan as a little kid. Like, that was my jam. Not as much anymore. I don't dislike it or anything. I just haven't really stayed in touch with whatever they're doing. I've seen the live-action movies, like I guess everybody has, and I kind of like the first one okay, but after that, like, oh, I like the Bumblebee movie. I almost forgot about that. The one with Haley Steinfeld. That was good. But aside from that, the Transformers movies were pretty garbage. I did nail Cyclops' voice. I didn't know that. I don't remember what he sounded like. I just imagine him being like stern and like, Wolverine, you cannot behave like that. Yes, Professor, we will do whatever you say. Best thing about your Rogue is I heard you say, oh, hi again. Did I? I didn't even realize I did that. Oh, Daniel wants Gambit's accent. Oh, hi, ma chérie. Oh, who wants to play some Cajun football? Then we get some good jambalaya, you know? Oh, look at what I'm wearing. So, for my Hawkeye video, the bad guys are like, you know, the tracksuit mafia, the Russian mafia, right? And I'm like, well, I'll just get a tracksuit because they're not that expensive, honestly, and I could still wear it when I work out. So I didn't mind doing that as just like a, you know, I wasn't buying an elaborate cosplay costume. I just got this. And then I looked at myself and this is so vain, folks, but I'm like, I don't think I look that bad in it. So it has definitely made its way into my actual like clothing rotation at this point. I unironically wear this now. I like how this looks. So yeah, I'm wearing my tracksuit. My optic blast will solve this problem. Oh, I saw the best thing that like should be a meme. Thinking of Cyclops, I saved this picture because it cracked me up so much. Let's see if this comes out. So Jean looks like super psyched there, right? And she's like, "Oh, Scott, you carved my name in that block of reinforced steel. You know, like women always want. They always want to see their name. That's what women want." And then Cyclops almost looks confused here. He goes, I was hoping you'd be pleased. What? I don't remember what this is from. I mean, he comes across as such a nerd. I hope you would be pleased. Yeah, I carved your name in some steel. And it worked. She is psyched. So, get yourself a girl that's impressed with whatever you can do with minimal effort, because yeah, Cyclops, that's his powers. He can, like, you know, uses I-beams to carve your name into steel. Gene! Somebody says that that's another thing that Cyclops would shout a lot. Okay. Just so you guys know, I do still have Bad Boy playing in my head right now. Bad, 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 bad boy. The trick is I can't sing it too well, or it would obviously get claimed. So I have to kind of do a bad job. Yeah, Jean does have crazy eyes in that picture, I agree. My thinking with this drawing that I'm doing is Kate was not expecting to go adventuring, right? She was wearing sort of, she was going hiking or something like that. So she has on regular pants and had like, the top of her suit under, just in case, but that she had to fashion this bow out of like just some sticks or something that were lying around. This is like a makeshift bow, not a fancy, nice bow. That's my thinking with what I'm creating here. One of my coworkers was Googling my my channel name because it was like a little quiet. Because we were just talking and stuff, and I found out that there's sort of like a small wiki page for me on the site. I think it's called TV Tropes is where it was. That was flattering to find, and then that got me thinking like, oh, is that enough that I can like get myself verified on Twitter? But no, I think you have to have something like 3 articles about yourself from like trusted sources before Twitter will verify your account. And I don't have like a Wikipedia page or anything like that, so maybe someday, but not yet. What is everybody going to have for dinner tonight? Let me live vicariously through you. Like I eat really healthy these days, mostly just salads and stuff. So tell me what you ate so that I can just sort of pretend like I got to eat something delicious like you did. Taunt me. It's okay. When you do things like sunglasses, do you draw the eyes underneath or just start out with the glasses? Yeah, if you jumped in at the beginning, Cheeky, I actually did have the whole face like sort of like roughly sketched out, so there were eyes under there, but I'm not planning on showing any of that. So let me erase some of that pencil now and start to be able to clean this up with any fine detail that is missing. There's a Swedish Wikipedia page about my comics work. That's awesome, Danielle. Congratulations. You deserve it. Oh, I know what's new. Like a couple days ago, my YouTube for Comic Tropes passed 150,000 subscribers. That's like kind of a nice big round number, so that felt nice. Thank you all, because probably everybody here has watched a Comic Tropes video, and so you've all helped me get there, and that felt good. In case you don't know, like the reason I'm doing things like weekly episodes and this live stream now every week is because I have gone part-time at work at my day job so that I could really focus on YouTube and try to make it my career. I don't know. And I will say it isn't like at a point yet where I'm able to quite make a full living off of it, but it is growing. Even after just like the 3 weeks or so that I've been doing it this way, it is growing. And that's nice. So I'm excited. I feel like there's a possibility, there's a possibility I could grow this into something. And if I can, have more income, I promise I would also be investing that back in the show. I would be like, creating a nice set. I would be getting better equipment. I know people complain about my sound sometimes. Getting help on some of that stuff. I would like be able to travel to maybe conventions and do interviews with, professionals and stuff like that. That would be pretty exciting to do for the channel. And I want to do more sort of like travel vlogging on this channel, just like, going to, if I can get to that point. Like right now, no, but if at some point I can get to the point where I can do, travel to conventions or comic book stores in other states and other countries and just sort of do like little like sort of travel vlogs about them, I think that would be like pretty interesting and fun and like good stuff to like sort of relax to at the end of the day and turn it on while you're playing a game or something, as compared to having to focus on like an in-depth critical analysis of something. Soon you will have over 200,000 subscribers. My prediction, and it's hard to like guess exactly because YouTube doesn't scale perfectly to like, it's always sort of changing, but I think if I was at 250,000 subscribers, I think I'd be able to do this full time, like be able to pay my bills with about somewhere close to 250,000 subscribers. And like if you can grow past that, then you start to be able to have enough of a cushion that maybe you can do, like I was talking about, like, a nicer set, nicer equipment, more guests and more travel, like that make it a little more of an aspirational channel, to be honest. Yeah. Which is my favorite convention? I love that question. Thanks. Hito versus Mustache is, I think, your name. Very fun question. I think that the convention I always have had the most fun at is SPX, the Small Press Expo, which takes place in Baltimore. Well, not exactly Baltimore, but it takes place in Maryland. It's definitely more of an indie show, but it's a good size. There's the publishers like Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics and Oni will be there. But the really cool thing about it is like the artist alley is a big draw, and the passion you see there is incredible. You're really not going to come across much in terms of like a superhero story. You may have sort of sci-fi, sort of maybe superhero adjacent type material. But you are going to still find comics that are innovative, like, just printed differently. You're going to find stuff that's hilarious. You're going to find some really good humor stuff. You're going to find some good biographical stuff, maybe true crime or just like, people admitting to like, tough emotional journeys and stuff like that, which can like make for really, really engaging and engrossing reads. So SPX is one that I've always had a lot of fun at. Haven't been in a few years now. Used to go for like 10 years when I lived down there. First one I ever went to, I got to see Frank Miller and Paul Pope, so that was pretty awesome. I really loved that. And then after that, I really have a great time at the New York Comic Con every year. I got tickets to this one, but at the last minute, more or less, we opted not to go just because of the world being in this pandemic still. I just didn't quite feel like it was worth flying across the country for. Like, it probably would have been fine. And I really wanted to go because the best thing I like about that is that I always go with my best friend from college. who lives in New York. And, it's an opportunity for us to all hang out. He loves comics too, so we always go to the convention together, as well as just get to hang out for a few days, go do stuff in the city, go to nice restaurants and hang out at his place, play games, whatever. Just talk, drink, meet new people. So I always have a wonderful time there. We enjoy like looking at the cosplay and like trying to look for like the weirder stuff that like people will try to sell, like I don't know, yaoi pillows or something like that, just weird stuff. So I always have a good time at that one too. It's huge, but it's really fun. If you've never been able to go, I definitely recommend the New York Comic Con. It's a great convention. I do plan on going to Emerald City in a couple weeks. That's here in Seattle. Because it's local and they're requiring you to show like your Vax card, I think I feel comfortable enough going to that one. So I think I will be going to that. That'll be my first convention in a long time. So I'm pretty excited. That's my plan right now, is to go to that. What about all of you though? Any conventions out there that anybody like absolutely loves, like San Diego or Dragon Con or MegaCon or Chicago Comic Con? Like what do you love going to? Your art streams are always a lot of fun. Other than just a lot of practice, what do you do to get better at drawing? Any books or resources you recommend? I especially like how you ink stuff. That's nice of you. No, I'm trying to think. You can take classes and stuff, but I think it really is just practice and maybe going to the occasional live drawing session with a model. That's all I can think of, in terms of recommendation. And then it's like just forming good habits about like forcing yourself to do work. Like not letting yourself have excuses. You got to put in the work. And I'm not saying that I do or that I'm great. I'm just saying that I think that's what it takes. There was another question there. I missed it. How to draw comics the Marvel way. There's good stuff to learn from that. Saratoga Springs Con in upstate New York. Okay, that sounds fun. Anime Dallas. Okay. Never been to a con myself. Looking forward to finding one to go to in the Pittsburgh area. Pittsburgh, I think, has a lot of like toy conventions in that area because I know a couple people there. If you go, you could probably meet the cartoonist kayfabe guys because if I'm right, I think that they're in the Pittsburgh area. That the YouTube channel Cartoonist Kayfabe, that's a comics channel with Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering right that they're in the Pittsburgh area. Pretty sure. I started doing action figure photography with my Marvel Legends, and it's been pretty fun so far. Well, that sounds interesting. Let's see. I usually go to my local comic convention every year, Edmonton Comic Expo. Stan Lee was there the year before he passed. Got to sit with him. Oh, okay. How was he doing at that point? Because, like, his last 2 years, I've seen some videos where it looks like he really wasn't necessarily all there. Did you feel like he was when you got to see him? I hope so. Do you prefer Kate or Clint? Well, that's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I guess I'll say Clint, but it's more because I just grew up with him. I think Kate is really awesome. Like, she's a really interesting, funny character. She's a great foil for Clint. I think they work really well together. I hope that makes sense. I like comic kayfabe, except they take too many shots at Stan Lee for my liking. It's a different type of show than I do. I understand where some of the anger towards Stan can come from. But ultimately, am I a fan of Stan Lee? I really am. I grew up as a fan of him, and I can't not be, really. It would have had to come out that he was, a monster, abusing people physically or something for me to sort of turn on him. I don't know. I guess if he was proven to be stealing outright, and maliciously and intentionally, I guess I could turn on him in some regards. But I just don't think that was quite what it was. I think there was just a different understanding of credit for the time. I don't think he was perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to apologize for Stan Lee. He wasn't perfect. I just still like him. Yeah, I probably went too big with the breasts. Oops. Well, that's just something to learn from. Yeah, there's a bunch of this that's a little sloppier than I was hoping, but live and learn. Seems like most hardcore Kirby fans tend to have problems with Stan Lee. I can understand that. It's justifiable, I think that something like Silver Surfer was very much a solo Jack Kirby creation that then Stan dialogued and sort of claimed the credit for it. I don't think that specific situation Stan was in the right, but whatever. Then again, I don't really know what the design and everything was definitely all Kirby's. I don't know what Kirby could have had in mind for the voice or anything. So maybe Stan did add to that more than I'm even right now giving him credit for. So I don't know. Do you ever do corrections with whiteout? Yeah, I always can. I've got a really nice, convenient pen here. Presto Jumbo Correction Pen. It just probably isn't really worth it for the live stream too much because this is really just for practice. If it was for publication, maybe I'd be correcting it, but it's just not kind of worth it to correct for this. Unless it's really egregious and was whoops, that doesn't match at all with what I was going for. I just saw a comment. Oh, am I related to Hollywood Steve Huey, Yacht Rock aficionado? Your cold opens were kind of like his. Definitely not related, just a big fan. Just a big fan. Big fan of Channel 101 in general for a long time. Watched in the days of Computer Man and Laser Fart and... wow, when Yacht Rock came along, that was something special. And so, yeah, my Oh Hi intros are, in some ways, based on that sort of cheesy 1970s aesthetic of, they would have variety shows and sitcoms. And, the sitcoms, somebody would be, fiddling with something and their name would pop up on screen. And in variety shows, they'd be like, hi, welcome to blah, blah, blah. And so, some of it's that, but some of it is also just because I loved Yacht Rock and I liked what they did there, and I just did my own. It let me also, I would love to do more sketch comedy and stuff. Anybody that's like been listening to this for a while knows that like in college, I did stand up and I did improv and stuff, and I did a sketch comedy show for the local like TV station, and that's like how I became friends with guys like Dr. Ken Jeong. We were just doing that stuff together, but yeah. So, I just trust me. If I had my own like full budget and stuff for a show, it would probably be and more time. It would probably be a lot jokier. And when I don't have as much time, I just sort of focus on the core elements of what I do, which is more analysis and critique. When I have more time, it just naturally, like the jokes just sort of come out. Like if you hang out with me, all I do is joke. It's probably very obnoxious. I don't know. People seem to like me okay. I missed an hour. Was watching Spider-Man costume rankings. Well, if that's what's important to you, Clay, I'll rank the Spider-Man costumes. Original red suit, number 1. Black suit, number 2. There you go. Thank you for coming to Chris's Spider-Man costume rankings, because there were only 2. There were never any other Spider-Man costumes. How many costumes did Spidey ever have? 2. And how many have been adapted into film? 2. No more, no less. There are no other Spider-Man costumes, just to be clear. Me and my son got quite a few people to watch your videos by constantly imitating your, "Oh, hi! You caught me!" blank. Good. You ever thought of being a comedy writer? How do you do it? Sure, I'd love to do it, but that's definitely something where you have to network into it, and you're only going to network into it if you're doing something related to it. Like if I lived in Chicago, New York, LA, maybe Boston, and was doing stand-up, or if I lived in Chicago or LA and I was doing improv, hey, maybe somebody would go hey, I know a guy, you want to send your writing submission? But I'm a guy in Seattle that does a YouTube show about comics. Like, there's nobody that's going to say hey, we like what you're doing. Could you send us some samples? Yeah, I'd love to do something like that, but that's just not going to happen. I almost wish when you reviewed Hawkeye and found a trope, you would attempt something to show off your own marksmanship skills. I thought about it. I looked into some local archery places. There's only a couple. None of them were too comfortable with the idea of me recording there. I just couldn't quite, maybe I could if I built more of a relationship, but I think I needed more than a few days to sort of convince them that what I was doing wasn't going to be dangerous or anything, and they just weren't going for it. So I was like, okay, bailed. And then some of you watched may have seen that there was a Nerf bow and arrow in the background. I had a backup plan to shoot some stuff with a Nerf bow and arrow in my backyard, but it's been a huge stormy season right now. I just did not have a single day where it was an option. It's just been nothing but raining, and raining hardcore. I just was like, no, there's just no way to do it. So, how many Marvel characters wear purple? Well, there's both Hawkeyes. There's the Purple Man. The Hulk wears purple, and so does She-Hulk. They wear purple, clothes, pants usually. Let's see, who else wears purple? Well, anybody that's green tends to wear purple because it's a good contrast. So, Green Goblin has a purple tunic. Who else is green? Now the Lizard has white. Doc Ock sometimes has some... No, he's mostly green. Never mind. Did you cuss in your stand-up? Maybe a little bit. Not a lot. Yeah, I would but if I was going to, that would sort of be the joke, was I did go sort of over the top, being really offensive, reading supposedly a fake fan letter to me that was really filthy. and acting like I was really flattered by it. So I do remember that now that you ask. This eyeglass is not quite right, is it? Who's your favorite celebrity that you got to meet at a convention? Like, or have you ever paid money to have a photo taken with one of them? Or even just, seen them walking by and you were like, oh, cool, I got to see Buck Rogers and the Pink Power Ranger walk to the food court, Galactus wears purple, that's true. Wilson Fisk on occasion. On occasion. You are looking at top chat, not new. Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I'll try to remember to switch that. What's the next episode of Comic Tropes going to be about? I'm currently working on 2 different sort of topics simultaneously, as I sometimes do, so I'm not 100% sure which one's going to be ready first. So I actually can't, in all honesty, tell you. But it's not going to be about a bad boy. Dean Stockwell and Anthony Michael Hall let me get a free photo. Together? What were they doing hanging out? I smudged some ink or something in the middle here, but you can't really see it too much on there. Tell you what. This isn't the most detailed drawing, so I'm going to actually color it. I've got some Copics here, and we'll see if this makes it interesting to color it up. I've mentioned before that I met Carmine Infantino, but the one that was closest to my heart was meeting Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger. I met John Dunsmore on a flight. He was Mr. Leahy in Trailer Park Boys. I met the actors for Pinhead and Leatherface. Ooh. I almost accidentally trampled Stan Lee at Wizard World Philly. Glad you didn't. That would not go down well. Doesn't She-Hulk and Green Goblin wear pinkish purple? I mean, I guess that's up to the colorist and the lighting choices of the scene, right? I mean, purple's purple, and you'll never convince me any different. Purple's purple, kid. You kids and your pinkish purples. Let's see. Looks good, like art you'd find in a Love and Rockets comic. I wish. Don't think I'm anywhere close to the Hernandez brothers, but thank you. I appreciate the compliment and where it's coming from. That's really nice of you. It wasn't at a con, but I met Alex Trebek once. He was kind of short. Ooh, busted. Sorry, Alex Trebek. You thought you were getting into heaven, but guess what? You're too short. That's just what happens sometimes. Sometimes you're just too short to get into heaven. I bet you guys didn't know that, like, heaven cared about, like, your height, but it's true. Like, you have to not just be a good person, you also have to be a certain height, or they won't let you in. There are certain exclusions. If you are born a little person, that's not held against you, and you do get to go in as long as you're good. Actually, secret fact here, they even let little people in if you're not good. They're like, yep, you get to go into heaven no matter what. Yeah, if you ever had any questions about heaven, I'm an expert, having been there a few times, so let me know. I'm always happy to talk about what heaven is like. But the short version is, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. Very, very small. I told this before, met Matt Hoffman, the BMX guy, in a hotel elevator. Man, did he have his BMX bike with him? Because if so, that must have been a really crowded encounter. And I'm like, Matt Hoffman, get that bike out of here. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Are you thinking? You're not, are you? You're not thinking. Alright, do I have purple? Probably should have checked that before I started down this path of coloring. I may not have purple. I'll find a purple. I just will somehow. Huh. What's this? I think I just found a little Lego man down here. I did. I don't know who this is, though. Is this from, like, Harry Potter? I don't know why I have this Lego. It doesn't ring a bell. I feel like it must be from Harry Potter. I have been to West Virginia. Mountain Mama. Are the ice machines in heaven noisy? No, that's part of what makes it heaven. Quietish. Fairly quiet. Fairly quiet. Not perfect, but, you know, what is. Not perfect, but what is. West Virginia. Mountain Mama. Take me home. Country roads. Fantastic Beasts. Oh, okay. Just don't remember getting that. Purple is a mix of red and blue. Too true. Radio reminds me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. That song was used in a movie based off of a comic book. What comic book and movie am I talking about? And if you get it right, I'll acknowledge that you got that right. What comic book would you have liked to come up with before the creator? I guess whichever one would make me the wealthiest if I'm going to just sort of steal an idea from someone. It's an interesting question. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Hey, Chris, I've been wanting to tell you this, and here I go. I want to say thank you, Chris, for saying that comics aren't going anywhere. And hey, at least we still got manga. I'm enjoying My Hero Academia. Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? I like it too. Comics ain't going nowhere. Thanks for the compliment. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. This channel's slowly growing thanks to all of you guys. And gals. And others. Oh, I saw the funniest thing. This is sort of related to comic book news of the week. So, we talked a little earlier about how X-Men, the cartoon, is coming back. X-Men 97, they're calling it. Some type of continuation, we'll call it, of the original cartoon. Cut to me looking on social media, like, as various comic book fans are reacting to the news, and I see some people going like, looks like the people that they're hiring to work on this cartoon are woke. Like, they're gonna get some they were like, literally people were saying this, like, they're gonna get some SJWs to work on X-Men. And I'm like, wow. What do you think X-Men is? Like, how can you get that so wrong? Like, X-Men, that's just what it is, man. Like, you don't have to like it or anything, but what do you think X-Men is? Anyway, it was pretty funny, actually. And I didn't even have to comment because the people that said stuff like that were getting roasted by their own, like, friends and followers. I saw a few channels do that. Yeah, Kingsman 2. Kingsman 2 is the correct answer. November 16th means that it's the first anniversary of the Lockshore graphic novel that we worked on. Is it really? Tomorrow was like the first day that it like came out? Wow, that flew by. Well, folks, I lettered a really funny comic called Lauxor, Lauxor, that Daniel in the chat room there wrote. And you can find it on the Marcosia publisher site. So if you've ever wanted to see my lettering in action, take a look. I don't really have the time to letter anymore. That was kind of a special thing, and I was glad that I got to do it. But I don't think I really have time to do something like that again, so I'm glad I got it in while I did. Those people don't know anything about X-Men. Yeah. People were complaining about X-Men tackling social issues. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, and I'm not kidding. Like, look it up. You will find on like almost any social media site some people complaining about that. And I'm like, what do you think that X-Men does? Like, in my opinion, almost every superhero comic does. But like, what do you think X-Men specifically is about? Like, wow. Talk about just missing the point. I mean, what's the deal? What's the deal? The 90s show would give them a heart attack. Well, you know that they were probably just too young to understand that they were getting, social messages ingrained within that, and that's just part and parcel with storytelling in general. But anyway, it is what it is. I was amused at that. How do you think the MCU is going to introduce X-Men plot-wise? Haven't given it a lot of thought, to be honest. How would they do it? I would say that there's a good chance that they're going to say that they've like probably always been there, but maybe something will sort of jumpstart more of them being born or something, and that will like prompt the X-Men to sort of make themselves known. I think they'll just sort of say that, like, yeah, they've always been there, they just haven't really been something like seen as a problem yet, but now society is starting to worry because more of them are being born. I think it'll be as simple as that. I don't think it'll be anything too big. I could see Scarlet Witch somehow being involved. And I really wouldn't be surprised, for instance, Scarlet Witch is in the Doctor Strange movie that's going to be about the multiverse. Let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if it had cameos from other, like, Marvel movies that weren't part of the MCU, including X-Men, including potentially things like Spider-Man, Blade, Hulk. I don't know. Like, I just wouldn't be surprised if they did anything like that. But I think that when they introduce them to the MCU proper, it'll just be like, yeah, they've always sort of been here. They just haven't been much of a, because it's such a small minority, it just hasn't been talked about a lot. And now, for some reason, it's coming more into the forefront. And so the X-Men have stepped forward to protect their own kind and help people, like, integrate into society. That's my guess. I would love to see another Silver Surfer animated series, or something with Adam Warlock, or the Magus storyline from Strange Tales. Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That was a good cartoon. I watched that one on something like, I don't know, Netflix or something after it had aired. Maybe it was, I don't know what streaming service it was on, but I found that one after it had wrapped up, and it was pretty loyal to the origins of the comics, with like the personalities and sort of visual look definitely inspired by some of the early MCU movies. Yeah, man, it's hard to think of Tony Stark talking any way other than how Robert Downey Jr. delivers those lines, now that he just sort of created that version. It's so interesting. But I think it also helps, to have that definitive voice in your head for when you're writing. Yeah, just interesting, like how it's very hard to envision Tony Stark these days talking or acting any way other than how Robert Downey Jr. did it. He definitely made that role his own. No question about that. I've got a couple purple colors. They just aren't Copics. They're like sort of a knockoff version called Hoo Hoo, but they work. Oh, what else? Kind of hope they do a small story centered around the Krakoa giant-sized plot. Well, yeah, they could. They could. We could always just find out that the X-Men, they'll take something from the modern stories and just say that the X-Men have been living on their own island of Krakoa, and keep it to themselves. I don't know. What's my favorite color? Probably gray. I like gray, sort of with a bluish undertone. What can I say? That's what I like. All right? You asked. I answered. Get off my back! Get off my back! I'm allowed to like what I like, okay? This is too dark. I need a lighter gray. I need a lighter gray. Ever since I read the last Nick Spencer Spidey issue and the new She-Hulk comic announcement, it's been giving me a lot of hope, and that's why I'm thanking you. Well, good. Sounds positive, and I like positivity. We need more of it. We need more inclusivity and people caring about each other and figuring out solutions for the problems of the world. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with us all enjoying some of the same storytelling and bonding over that stuff. I like it. There we go. Heck yes. What's a really light purple? There we go. Did you know there was a 90s Swamp Thing cartoon that only ran for 5 episodes? I think I did know about that, but I don't think I've seen it. I have seen both of the movies that they made. Not great, to be honest. Not great. What else is being asked? I'm getting quiet, but we've also been going like long enough that I probably won't be going a whole lot longer. But let's take some more questions before I consider wrapping anything up. A Namor series would be a great idea. Have it take place in the 40s. Oh yeah, that would be fun. I watched those animated Swamp Thing episodes. Daniel's definitely a scholar about vintage cartoons, it seems. I feel like you know that stuff inside and out, Daniel. Take a look in just a sec. I thought the recent Swamp Thing TV series was pretty good. I heard a lot of good things about that. I think it's on HBO Max, so if it is, I will definitely be taking a look, because I'm curious about that. I'm super curious about that. West Virginia, Mountain Mama. I would love to see an animated Beta Ray Bill series with the Daniel Warren Johnson run. Oh yeah. What do I think of Kim Jung-gi's art? I think he's a master. Love Kim Jung-gi. Got to meet him twice, and I think I have 2 sketches by him in my Kim Jung-gi sketchbooks that I've bought. So, huge fan of Master Kim Jung-gi. He's incredible. Just incredible. I want a Batman comic. Okay. You know what? The great thing is, there's a bunch of them out there, actually. A bunch. It's pretty cool. The cool thing about these markers is they're alcohol based, and they blend pretty well, so you can like layer them, and it doesn't like just sort of turn into mud. It mostly blends together, which is nice. Let's see. Would you consider doing a tropes episode on why so many Silver Age villains had green and purple in their color schemes? I'm not against it, but it's kind of like, it's just that was what, there was limited coloring capabilities print-wise, and it's just natural opposites on the color scale, so it just tended to look pretty good. I think I talked about this in my episode about comics coloring history, if I'm remembering right, where, a lot of the superheroes will have sort of like, red and blue, Superman, Spider-Man, etc., and then villains like Green Goblin and Lex Luthor just tend to have the opposite, the purple green. It's just sort of a more angry color scheme. So I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I could say. I'd have to think about it. I'm not against it. I just, off the top of my head, I don't know what else I would really say. Good question. Just don't have a great answer, I guess. Save the secondary colors for the bad guys. Yeah, Fantastic Four, avoid blue wearers. Avid blue wearers, excuse me. They don't avoid, they're avid. Good points. Good points. Y'all are educated. Is Beta Ray Bill stronger than classic Thor? I mean, they're basically supposed to be about equal, so I don't know. Really, more would just depend on story requirements, you know, like who's more exhausted because they've been in a battle or something like that. No, they're supposed to be about equal. They have the same access to the same power set. Did you read Ultra Mega by James Herron? Yeah, it's very good. It's fun. It's super cool. I recommend it. Hopefully everybody read it. Everybody. Even if you didn't want to. Hopefully you read it. You know who's really good at coloring with markers? Eric Kinnett. If you've ever looked at his work on social media, he does a lot of, like, posts a lot of sketches, and he'll color a lot of the stuff with markers. And oh my god, the number of layers he can add to, you know, just grays. Like, you know, oh god, I wish I could draw something like him. Like, he's somebody I really admire. I'm trying to think, like, what... I haven't seen a lot of comics by him lately, but yeah, Eric Kinnett, Canete, so good. There's an example of, in my opinion, a very underrated creator. So good. Does Bryan Michael Bendis feel very burnt out by any chance? Don't quite understand that. Sorry, I'm trying to parse that, El Torito Rique. Has Bryan Michael Bendis feel very burnt out by any chance? I don't... not quite clear. Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm missing it. I don't get it. My bad. Well, I am excited, like, about the topics that I'm working on for the upcoming comic tropes. I think that there's some that'll take me a little longer than others, because I'm looking at a few foreign comics and a few comics that are a little older, so like they just aren't as available online. So it just takes me a lot longer, because that means that I will have to scan the comics, which takes ages. I did find a device. I forget what it's called, but maybe my family will get it for me this year, because I went ahead and put it on my Amazon wish list. It's like this cool scanner that, like, just looks down on your page, and you push a button with your foot that's connected to it, kind of like a sewing pedal, and it just snaps a picture of the page and scans it. Has his writing gotten bad? I don't know that I've read anything by Bryan Michael Bendis lately. I hope it hasn't gotten bad. I can't say. I haven't read anything by him in a little while. I know he went to DC Comics a few years ago, and I can't say that I've, like, you know, really kept up with what kind of stuff he's done there. I'm sorry. It's a good question. I don't have a good answer. There is a site that literally whole runs of classics comics online. Oh yeah, classic comics. Yeah. Like anything that's in like the golden age. I know about sites like Comic Book Plus, and so that's good. Like I can find that stuff. That's not hard. I'm talking more stuff from the 80s that's like just a little bit indie, so like just doesn't tend to be on like, say Comixology or a site like that where you can usually buy a digital version, which is something that can save me a lot of time. I'll like making the Comic Tropes show, the thing that takes the longest by far is the editing. And the biggest component of that, gathering the images. Because a lot of the stuff that I want to say, the whole stories are up here, so I don't have to like necessarily look it up then. But then after I've like written it and recorded it, now I need to find the image that backs up my argument, the page or whatever. And yeah, that can be tough. That can be real tough sometimes. Like it takes a long time. Yeah, it is a pretty cool scanner, I think. So that's something I want to try to get at some point. Driving down the road. Sorry, I've got a song stuck in my head. Clearly. Gotta get it out of my head. Get it out! Get it out! Hint taken. Well, it's pretty expensive, Gene, so I'm not asking you to go out of your way to get me something like that. It just was something that looks cool. The Smithsonian uses huge desks and cameras. Yeah, they've got access to some really cool tools. I'm jealous of those folks. I've got a few friends that work for various Smithsonian museums since I lived in D.C. Like, they do have access to some nice tools, but they need them to do some important work. If you've never been to D.C., I strongly recommend making some time to go to a Smithsonian museum. And there's a lot of them, whether it's art or history or science or culture. Boy, just some fantastic museums, that's for sure. That's for damn sure. Yeah, damn. I said it. And I don't regret it. I said it, I don't regret it. Gotta wake up early tomorrow. Thanks for the great live stream, Chris. Yes, it's definitely the best one I've ever done. No, sorry, folks. I realize, like, I feel like I don't have enough topics to just sort of talk while for this episode. I'll try to be more prepared next week. I'm having a great time personally, but I want to make sure that, it's entertaining for anybody that's tuning in to watch. So, yeah. Have you ever heard about Elsa Charretier? I'm guessing at that name, Charretier. She's a comic artist who has a YouTube channel, okay? She analyzes and breaks down comic panels, and she even makes scenes of film and TV into comic pages. No, I have to admit that I'm not familiar. Sounds like a great idea for a channel. So more power to her. It's a her, right? I thought so. I read she. So I was like, where did I come up with that? That sounds awesome. That's very different than what I do. So maybe that's something comic book related that I can take a look at. That's sort of related to this. So like, this week, I did an episode on Hawkeye, only to see that some of my fellow comic book YouTubers did the same thing. Didn't necessarily stun me. I think they all beat me, too. Like, because who did one? Owen Likes Comics, I see, uploaded a video about Hawkeye, and I think Comic Pop was the other one that did one. And, I felt like a little bad because I'm like, I'm crowding like the same area. Like, how many videos about Hawkeye does the comic book reading audience need? But what can I say? Like, those came out when I was well into producing mine. Like, it came out like, a day, 2 days before mine. Like, I was in the process of editing. I'd already written and recorded. So I was a little bummed out. Like, maybe I should have predicted that would have been such a popular topic with the show coming up. Hopefully, I still, created an entertaining episode that wasn't for the audience repetitious in any way. It's very important for me that I don't watch other YouTube channels or any real, videos or read any reviews that are covering the same stuff as what I do, because I don't want to influence my opinion and have derivative content for all of you. So if even if it inadvertently overlaps, that's still my honest take without any filter. So now that mine has come out, I should probably take the time to watch some of those others. But I am sorry that I released something that other people had the same idea. I should have either thought ahead and released something like that much earlier, or just held off. But I wasn't thinking. I was just like, oh, there's a Hawkeye show coming up. Now's a good time to do an episode about his interesting run. Not thinking, of course, there are other channels that will probably do the same thing. But anyway, it should be fine, obviously. Now I can watch it and enjoy it as a fan, because it's already come out. So that's kind of cool. I just got back from taking a shower. Whoa, careful, man. I mean, we can only get so horny. Slow down. You're giving us too much, too fast. And there's at least the flat colors. Obviously, if I was doing this these days digitally, you could do more with shading and stuff. That's fun. I watched the Comic Pop and Owen Likes Comics videos and yours. Oh, well, thanks, Dr. Doom. Did they, you're in a unique position where you've seen this, because I haven't seen anybody else say that. I didn't get to see them. Were they all kind of the same, or did they each come at it at a different angle, hopefully? I'm hoping. Did it give you different takes? Hey, Chris, I really despise the idea of She-Hulk being a mindless monster, because it takes away from what the character really is. Because isn't Jenny the opposite of her cousin? Yes and no. I think that that is definitely a more interesting niche for She-Hulk to fill. Being in control and of her own power all the time. But just to be clear, when she started, her first several issues, she was the savage She-Hulk, and she also kind of got mindless. And there's also been Incredible Hulk runs where he's been in control and been sane. So I can understand if that take doesn't necessarily work for you, but it shouldn't be off limits. It should be something worth exploring, especially because of the ramifications of what that will be later on. Because she'll probably, get better, go back to her base state, and then she'll have that history, that context to deal with. Could be interesting. Kelly Thompson's run on Kate is really good. Not mentioned as much. Haven't read it. Good to know. Just wanted to talk about a run that I really liked. But I appreciate the recommendation. Oh, I know what I didn't tell you that I reviewed here. I talked all about the comics that I reviewed this week, and I forgot one. Because you just reminded me. I also picked up the first trade paperback of Ms. Marvel by G. Willow Wilson and Adrian Alphona. And that is a good comic. I have enjoyed the character of Kamala Khan, but I've only seen her basically in supporting roles here and there. In comics and in video games and stuff like that. And I was like, well, time to go back and read the original story. And oh my god, what a charming character. She's just so interesting. Definitely reminds me in a good way of early original Spider-Man. Balancing the superhero stuff with, real life complications. In her case, mostly that's family. And gives me a little bit of a look at a subculture, or part of a culture, in other words, that I'm not familiar with. Just like, if you focused a Hawkeye story on his days as a carnival worker, or, if you focused on Ghost Rider being part of a motorcycle club. I don't know much about what life for a Pakistani family in New Jersey is like. And she's just so nice. Kamala Khan is like, she's a little rebellious. She's not perfect, and she isn't necessarily like the smartest, but she's got her heart in the right place. And she's a nerd. She loves superheroes, and it's just so charming seeing her deal with the kind of stuff we've seen characters like Spider-Man and Nova and Speedball and Darkhawk, Ghost Rider, young teenagers getting their powers. Like, it's so charming watching her go through all that, but like set in a more modern real life setting. I loved it, and the art by Adrian is so good. It can be kind of realistic sometimes, and sometimes it can be pretty exaggerated and cartoony, but I think it totally works for the world that it's building, and it tells you something about the character. I love it. I love it. The early Kamala Khan Ms. Marvel comics were good. Yeah, okay. I had the first trade of Ms. Marvel. I gave it to my young niece. She's big into Marvel characters. It's a great story. That's so cool. Other people like it too. I am aware of her very first series, and it does sound like an interesting idea, but when it's executed poorly, that's when it's a sigh and disappointment. Well, I don't know about any disappointments. All I can say is I've read the first trade now. I don't have it with me. It's upstairs. I meant to bring it here for my review. And it's really good, folks. I really, really liked it. I give it a recommend. I cannot wait till Wednesday when I go to the comic store. I'm going to look for the second trade because I want to keep reading these stories of Kamala Khan. I find her to be a great superhero character. She's really cool. So, yeah, Speedball, one of the later characters, Marvel characters created by Steve Ditko in the 90s. He created Speedball. He was on the New Warriors. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day for now. Thanks for looking at me draw something. Thanks for watching me, review the comics that I read this week. Like I say, out of what I read this week, the stuff that I recommend is Friday is basically at the top of the list. And then the other things that I'd give a recommendation to would be A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, because I don't know where that's going, and that's cool. Venom, mostly for the art, but I'm willing to give Al Ewing a chance because he's written great stuff before, and we'll see where that develops, because this is just the first issue. And then, like I said, older, but like still holds up fantastic. It's not that old either. The first trade of Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. It's called, I think it's called No Normal is the name of the first trade. It's great. Really, really strong. Folks, I've had a great time talking with all of you tonight. It was so much fun. If you haven't, please consider hitting subscribe to this channel and watching these videos. Maybe even hit the notification button, because I'll keep doing these weekly, Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and reviewing the comics that I've read this week, as well as drawing something and taking your questions. And I think it'll just continue to grow. I really do. But you guys are here early on, so I'll start recognize. I already recognize a lot of your names here, which is really nice. You keep showing up, and I'll try to prioritize answering questions from people whose names I recognize whenever I can. But yeah, so and I also am working on a video for this channel from my sidekick Infotron. And if you don't know who he is, he's a 1950s-esque robot. So he's going to tell you something about comics. I'm working on a video with him. Hopefully I can have that done within a week or two. So there's some more stuff coming here beyond the live streams, and I'll eventually start doing some like sort of vlogging here when I go to like other comic shops and places like that. So hope you like it. Appreciate all the comments, appreciate the likes, and definitely the subscribes. It helps a lot. I will next see you likely on Comic Tropes. I'll have a video this Sunday.